Wow! Hey, what's up everybody? Porkbutte here at thebatani.com to come talk to you about one of my favorite game series of all time. That's Creative Assembly's Total War, and their newest addition to the Total War series, Total War Warhammer. That's right. Total War Warhammer came out last week, and it has already surpassed any preceding Total War game that has previously come out in sales. So congratulations, Creative Assembly. Now, while I am a fanboy, and I'm going to definitely fanboy gush over a lot of the improvements to this game, I'm also going to go over some critiques and some comments about some things that need improvement here, but we'll get to that down on the road. So let's first dive into it. If you've never heard of what Total War is, you've never played one before, it is, I think, the best real-time strategy game out there in video game land. It basically gives you a lot of dynamic ways to manage a macro level strategy on like a campaign scale, all the way down to like a micro level, like tactical battlefield commanding, like with hundreds and thousands of troops that you can zoom in, fight, do all these cool, crazy things with that you don't get to do in any other RTS game out there. It's not going to be quite as fast-paced as something like StarCraft or Command & Conquer was back in the day, but it's definitely going to give you a nice turn-based style RTS that has a lot of different types of play involved with it, and a lot of different ways to achieve your objectives. So, highly recommend it. Go check it out. Don't even watch the rest of this video. Just download some Total War and start playing.
The greenskins scurry back to their dirt holes, Lord. However, it remains a time of crisis for the Empire. Secessionists, hostile to the election of Emperor Karl Franz, are trying to form a breakaway province to the south. We need a stable empire if you are to study the arcane texts. You must put an end to their senseless revolt.
To start things off, I want to talk about the new player experience, and that's what you're going to go through when you first start up the game. If you're brand new to Total War, it's great. They've done an excellent job with everything, walking you through the gameplay, giving you all the tools you need to be a successful commander, and then they kind of set you free and you can go off on your own. I even really recommend this for veteran players who are experienced with Total War games before, because everything's a little bit new, a little bit different. It's the first time that Creative Assembly has ever done like magic in a game before, ever done this more RPG style hero class to go along with your armies, so I think it's really good to kind of get in there and pound out the tutorials and get that done. But it's so good you don't even know that you're going through a tutorial. So when you first start up the game, you'll be taking through some great cinematics and walk through a battle. This is really fun, it's very exciting, and it kind of gets you hooked like right away. After that, you're given some specific objectives to go and start off your campaign with. Upon completing those objectives, you'll get more and more freedom to go out and do what you want. I love that. I love that they kind of give you all the things you need to go and build an empire. They're very good about walking you through things. You can't go and just kind of click willy-nilly. Sometimes you have to go through and read the little advisor message that pops up, but a lot of times I don't really find that to be too annoying or anything like that, like it is in other games. I find it to be very helpful. So I think that this is one of the best ways that a company that has been making a game for 10 years has gone back, said, you know what, there's going to be a lot of new players, let's try to give them a way to figure this out and to get going and started in this awesome game that we've made. Kudos to Creative Assembly for going and focusing on that. And let's get on to the next topic, Heroes and Lords. Just one quick disclaimer here before we get started. I am not a Warhammer lore nerd. I think the lore is great. I get it. There's orcs, there's humans, there's vampires, there's these Chaos Warrior things, there's dwarfs, it's awesome, but I do not know how all of these races are supposed to interact with one another. I do know that Creative Assembly has done a fantastic job giving them a interesting and unique feel, but other than that, it just is not something that I know a whole lot about. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about Heroes and Lords. So every campaign will start out by having you choose who you want your faction leader to be. Like, if you play as Empire, you have to choose between either playing as Emperor Karl Franz or Balthazar the Wizard Dude. This faction leader will have specific abilities unique to the lore surrounding the character, but will also break down into battlefield abilities and campaign abilities, just like regular lords. So they're not really that different. They just have a couple of things that make them unique. Regular lords are people that you will hire to lead your armies in addition to the lord that's leading your main army, and they'll be common throughout the entire campaign. They basically are the generals from past games, but instead of having a slew of passive abilities, they get a lot of special special abilities to help them fight, to help them lead them in battle, and to be, quite frankly, really overpowered. I like it. Overall, I think this is a neat feature. It adds kind of an RPG element to a RTS game that has traditionally lacked a lot of customization like this, but I think it still needs some tweaking. And the same way, heroes, very similar to Lord, but their purpose is to work basically like the spies and diplomats, priests, champions of past games, and that they go around your campaign map and they do special missions like demoralize your enemy's lands, raise up the morale in your lands. They can go around and assassinate enemy lords or enemy agents of whatever kind. And they have unique abilities specific to what sort of class they are. Like, witch hunters are great at DPS, they can do a lot of ranged stuff, they're good at assassinating things, while the Priest of Sigmar have the ability to help buff your units in battle, to heal them, and to help you fight like the Lords of Chaos and stuff like that. So they're actually really dependent on what exactly you want to use them for. Now, like I had mentioned before, the downside to this is that the heroes are incredibly overpowered. There's been a lot of posts like on Reddit and things where people are posting like their dwarven faction leader killing like hundreds and hundreds of dudes by himself. I've personally had battles where my entire army has retreated, but Karl Franz is like standing there killing everything until the battle's over. I think while that's really neat, and I appreciate that, even for a fantasy game it kind of pulls me out and is a little bit absurd. It also works both ways in that if you have a really nice army, but you have a low-level lord leading it, or if it's a really big garrison army with no lord leading it, and you go up against an enemy AI that has a lord that's a couple levels higher, you will just get completely demolished, and it is frustrating. So you have to almost always play these battles where your opposing AI's lord is higher than yours, because otherwise, the computer will automatically calculate a loss, and that's not good. Unless you have overwhelming numbers against it, the only way to get past that is to play the battle out. So there's still some balance issues, I think, going on there. Lords are really cool. I think the whole idea is really cool. It just needs more fine-tuning. Why am I even talking about auto-resolving battles? One of the features in Total War Warhammer that is common in every Total War game is you get the option at the beginning of every battle to resolve it automatically. So instead of having to go in and play it and fight it out, you can just click a button and it'll tell you the result based on what the computer thinks your odds are of winning. One of the problems with this, like I said, heroes can affect how the computer calculates that greatly, is that the load screens to even get in to fight the battle are taking an incredibly long time. On my computer, which is running an older NVIDIA card, but not too old, it's an NVIDIA 960 with 4 gigs of video RAM, 16 gigs of RAM on the computer itself. There isn't a solid-state drive, but it shouldn't matter that much. It's taking 2 to 3 minutes to load into the battle. And then the battles happen at a relatively faster pace than they have before. Then you're taking another 2 to 3 minutes to load out, and then before you know it, you spend half the time fighting a battle just waiting on load screens. And that's not fun. So I only pretty much fight battles now that I have to fight. Battles which I know if I don't fight, I would lose. And I don't like having to do that. I wish that there is a way for the load screens to happen faster. I know that's something that Creative Assembly is going to work on in the future and try to improve on down the road, just like they do with all of their games. But for now, it is just something that we're going to have to deal with, and it's really not that big of a deal overall, because look how freaking amazing these graphics are. Now, while this is really great, it's also a double-edged sword. See, gaming companies have to always push the graphics on each iteration of a new game. What's happening with Creative Assembly's graphics in Total War Warhammer, while beautiful, is that it's really hindering the improvements on their battle system. They know that while players will get lots of opportunities to fight battles, of those opportunities, a majority of them will get auto-resolved. So, why improve something that a good portion of customers aren't even using? Since Total War came out, the army size has been stuck at 20 units. While you can play 40 stacks of units in one army on individual battles, you can never go over 40. There's a lot of mechanics in this whole thing that have been unchanged for the last 10 years that longtime Total War players have really been asking Creative Assembly to look at and make some changes. Now, you can definitely adjust unit sizes with things like mods and stuff. There's just too many things that we want that can't be fixed with mod. I really wish that Creative Assembly would look at trying to figure out a way to reconcile the graphics engine with some new battle mechanics, and especially with army sizes and reinforcements and all that, because I think it'll make a better, more fun, fresher game in the future. With all that said, and to wrap it up, I know I could go on all day. There's a new quest system, there's a lot of really cool features in each individual faction that you really just have to play to experience. There's a lot of story stuff in Total War Warhammer that has never been in a Total War game before, and there's a lot more emphasis on making it a never-ending campaign rather than a campaign that you will eventually end one day. I like all of those things. I think they're all very cool. There will be individual aspects of individual games that I prefer to Total War Warhammers, but overall I think this is a fantastic game. It's phenomenal to play, and I highly recommend it to anybody that loves RTS games in general. You will not be disappointed.